Hi guys, welcome to Westminster Uncensored. I'm Michael Heaver.
I'm Patrick Christie.
And so much to get through today. Stories from right across the world. As ever, I want you to dive in and get involved. But where else to start? But right here in the UK with Brexit and Jacob Rees-Mogg with some very, very interesting comments, Patrick.
Are we seeing the first signs of an open Tory rebellion now over Brexit? Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Tory darling, a Westminster favourite of course, has come out and actually said that he thinks people have got concerns that the Tory party don't want to leave the EU at all. He said, and I quote, "I fear we're getting to the point where you wonder whether the government really wants to leave at all. If we say to the EU that our backstop position is that we will be the vassal state, why should the EU make any effort to make any arrangement other than us to be a vassal state?" And he's got a point, isn't he? He's tapping in there to the feeling that we're being rather too soft on Brexit, and basically we're going to end up with a Brexit in name only, which I think would serve as a massive disappointment to most Brexiteers in the country.
Yeah, I mean, quite extraordinary, guys. That's why we've actually gone with the headline for this show. Will the government deliver Brexit? Do you trust the government to deliver Brexit? Because this isn't some opposition politician or MP or some fringe character. This is Jacob Rees-Mogg, one of the, if not the most prominent Brexiteer MP on the backbenches of the Conservative Party, openly asking, will the government deliver Brexit? And when you've got someone like Mogg saying that, it reflects a wider discomfort, I think, from many that voted leave, that there's been dither, there's been delay, there's been a lack of decisive leadership from the top of the government from Theresa May. And as I say, I think it speaks volumes to me that you've got Mogg saying this. He also said, this was on the Moggcast for Conservative Home, I have doubt about Theresa May, I have doubts that what she says is still it's fine, but what she does is not delivering on what she says. So, is it a matter of fine words but very poor actions?
Well, a lot of you guys seem to agree. Mark Taylor's been in touch saying Theresa the appeaser couldn't even deliver a pizza. Fantastic. It almost sounds like a rap lyric, that, doesn't it? But I like that a lot. And that's the genuine concern, guys, I think, for a lot of people here, is that whilst Theresa May might be saying a lot of the right things, and even then that's up for debate, isn't it? But Theresa May can be saying stuff like, oh, we're definitely leaving the customs union, we're definitely here to deliver Brexit. We're not actually seeing any clear vision, are we? We're not actually seeing any clear plan on how we're going to leave the European Union, or indeed when. And so this is the issue that we've got. And it's getting to a point now where you are seeing the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg and other MPs like him, Daniel Kawczynski, of course, now being more and more confident, coming out and saying, look, we've got serious concerns. They are almost now in open revolt. And how long will it be? And how much longer can this go on for before they actually openly do revolt and openly do come up and say, look, well, maybe it's time we got rid of Theresa the appeaser or whatever, we don't know, but that time looks like it could be coming.
I mean, Daniel Kawczynski, as Patrick mentions, has actually written for Westminster. And by the way, guys, do go and visit westminster.com. He wrote a piece for us not that long ago, basically saying that he thinks Jacob Rees-Mogg is the man to take over as the next Conservative leader. There's also Nadine Dorries, very interesting, spoke to the BBC. Again, you can go and see the story on westminster.com there. Basically, she was saying it'd be, although she doesn't think there should be a leadership contest now, she's saying it would be extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary, if Brexiteer Jacob Rees-Mogg's name was not in the hat when it comes to the next Tory leadership contest. And what it shows you is that although you may not have people saying they want it right now, you've got the mentality now within the Conservative Party increasingly is thinking about the future and who is going to come after Theresa May. And when you see there Jacob Rees-Mogg being mentioned, I mean, guys, let us know what you think. Would you back Mogg? I know a lot of you guys support him. Is there someone else that you would support? Do you think Theresa May is going to be around for much longer? Do you want to see her stay? What is your view on the government's performance on Brexit? Because there seems to be increasing disquiet from Conservative MPs, never mind anyone else.
But it's something that you never really saw under David Cameron, is it? Open discussions about who's going to be the next leader of the party. And that does imply that really behind the scenes, and clearly as we know, it's an open secret that people aren't best pleased with Theresa. Plenty of MPs are openly talking about her successor. Plenty of MPs talking about, well, in fact, I think we're only a couple of letters to the Tory party chairman away from having an actual vote of no confidence or a leadership challenge. So it's very, very interesting times in politics, this, because certainly not for the most recent years, and not really in modern memory in my lifetime, has there been such open discussion about the future leader of the Tory party. Talk about deposing the Prime Minister at the minute, and such open divisions even within the own cabinet. You know, it's mental. This idea of collective responsibility, this idea of towing the party line, seems to have gone out the window. You have a collection of individuals in cabinet now, as opposed to one unified Tory party. That implies a lack of fundamental leadership.
Now, the DUP have been very strong on this, you know, very pro-Brexit, the DUP. Ian Paisley, one of their senior MPs, again, this story's on westminster.com, he was talking about, issued a stark warning, basically saying that the government need to deliver on what they've said that they're going to do. Very, very clear. Talking about a continual sort of single market customs union membership outcome is sounding like the biggest cloud of mush I've ever actually heard. That's not what we're doing. We are leaving the EU and we will know there's a short transition period to resolve some issues, but that's the way we intend to push this. The idea that you can be, I like this line by the way, the idea that you can be half pregnant, half in, half out isn't on. This is a revolutionary change and we are leaving the EU. And I think, guys, I do think that the spirit of June 23rd, 2016 has been lost on some people. People didn't go to the polling booths in 2016 thinking this would be some minor change, some tinkering around the edges, something that may happen in a decade or so. They did so because they wanted big revolutionary changes. Taking back control of borders, stop pumping money into Brussels, and taking back control of our democracy and our laws and our sovereignty. And I just think now there's a lack of radicalism at some points here. People are just, it's all taken far too long. It's being watered down. It's being carried out as some sort of, you know, political process by people that don't really believe in it. And that to me loses the spirit of what Brexit is about, which would be fundamental, radical change that happens now. Not that people have to wait until 2021, 2022, 2023. God knows. It needs to be delivered.
Absolutely, and this is the interesting thing with the Paisley comments as well, because obviously the DUP are propping up the Tories at the moment. Now, they clearly don't want to see any differentiation whatsoever between you know, the relationship, the Brexit relationship between the rest of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. So they don't want to see Northern Ireland, you know, in some way more attached to the EU than they are. So basically a soft devolution towards the EU being in control in Northern Ireland. Now, if Theresa May does move towards that, does move towards some kind of hard border option there, etc., then actually the DUP could turn around and essentially bring down the government. And Paisley hinted at that in this speech, in this interview that he gave. He basically said, is that a chance you want to take? Do you want to risk it? And that should be a very stark warning to Theresa May. And that really is actually something that's gone slightly underreported, is that actually if Theresa May does wobble on this Northern Ireland issue, the DUP will turn round, won't they, and say, no, sorry, we're not having this, enough's enough, and then the whole thing crumbles.
The DUP, Sammy Wilson, wrote for Westminster as well. You can see it there, basically saying May must show the EU she is prepared to walk away. And I think certainly this is something else that's been lost, is that if you go into a negotiation with the European Union, you know they're going to play silly buggers. They're slippery as eels. That's just what they do. They bamboozle governments, they bamboozle democracies, they swindle it left, right and centre. And you've got to stand strong in dealing with them. And part of standing strong in any negotiation is having that ability to say, no, your terms are completely out of order, we ain't going along with it, and we're prepared to walk away. When is the last time, really, that you heard Theresa May or anyone senior in the government actually say, no, sorry, there's still the possibility that we'll walk away? In fact, I would have done it the other way. I would have gone into Brussels saying, we're presuming no deal, we're planning for no deal, we're hoping for one, but the presumption will be that we're not getting one, so we are fully ready to walk away from the table. Yeah. And I think that is another weakness in what is being done currently.
Well, we've gone the opposite way, actually, haven't we? Because we've actually openly said to the EU that essentially our backstop option is for us to basically remain a member of the customs union or some form of customs union, maybe have some element of the single market, and then obviously not be in a position to vote in the EU, basically become this vassal state. Well, if you tell them that that is a realistic option for you, what incentive does the European Union have then to do anything, to enter into any kind of more favourable terms with Britain? If you're saying to them that is an option that we would consider, so we might be left with, well, the European Union know we're on a time slot here, don't they? And so all they have to do is wait for that time slot to back out, and that's it. We're left with that situation. I mean, really, this is almost totally the polar opposite of way of going about negotiating absolutely anything. And people like Philip Hammond, I believe, is a property mogul in his spare time in the cabinet. He would not be negotiating any kind of property deal in the same way that he's content for the government to negotiate Brexit. Why on earth is he playing roulette with the country's future when he wouldn't do it in any other walk of life whatsoever?
It'll be very interesting to see what happens now. As I say, you've got the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg and Daniel Kaczynski and other Conservative MPs looking at this and asking themselves, will the government deliver on Brexit? As ever, guys, you can rely on Westminster and westminster.com. Go and visit it to keep you abreast with all the latest on this and more. We're going to move over slightly now. If you're enjoying the show, by the way, give us a like, give us a retweet. The House of Lords. Now, this is something we've covered quite a bit. You know, I mean, the way that they've just gone about overruling the public vote is an absolute disgrace. Time and again, I think it's up to 16 times they've voted against the government. Everything from remaining in the EU customs union to removing the date of Brexit completely from the EU withdrawal bill. Completely outrageous. Well, you can go and see the story on westminster.com. Their new poll basically asking people what they thought about the House of Lords. 76% of people saying they believe the Lords is out of tune with the will of the people. 79% saying that they think the House of Lords is an outdated throwback, and when asked, only 17% support the status quo of a fully unelected House of Lords. The most popular alternative is a fully elected House of Lords, which is backed by 37% of people. Another 24% want it abolished and not replaced by anything.
John Stanwell's been in touch. Thank you very much, John. Please do keep your comments rolling in, guys, saying the House of Lords has basically signed their own death warrant. And that's it, isn't it? If you're relentlessly trying to defy the will of the people, if you relentlessly say, look, we don't care that we're this unelected bunch of old fogies that sit there and make decisions on your behalf, and you can completely disregard the result of a democratic referendum, well, all of a sudden, people start asking questions as to whether or not your luxurious red leather club should exist at all. You know, there's a housing crisis in London, and maybe we could turn that into some affordable homes.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, it shows you again there's a complete detachment in terms of the political system that we've got and what the public want. I mean, virtually no one wants a fully unelected House of Lords.
Well, Tannis thinks they're a bunch of OAP numpties. I couldn't put it better myself, Tannis.
Well, it just shows you, doesn't it? I think again the lack of anger, the lack of support, over the House of Lords and the current system we have, and what it takes ultimately is a government to be bold on this. And actually, I think you could have a democratic revolution if you turn the unelected House of Lords into a Senate elected via proportional representation, actually give people more representation and more sense of ownership of the democracy they live in, and not less. But I think, guys, something's got to give on this, because to have such a gulf in terms of public opinion and what's actually going on, and as I said, the way they've behaved in terms of Brexit, it's an absolutely appalling. I mean, they've completely overstepped the mark.
I think it's just a very worrying indication of the state of mind of a lot of people, Britain's political class, isn't it? The fact that they clearly have no regard, no qualms whatsoever with running roughshod over the will of the people. That really is, for a group of people that contains a lot of Lib Dems, they're supposed to be the most democratic bunch that there is, the clue's in the name, as far as they're concerned, they don't give a toss about saying, actually, no, we know best. Now, that's the opposite of the way the British political system should be run, surely, isn't it? That's the opposite of the way that we go about doing things. It's not exactly democracy. They're happy to go in there at the taxpayer's expense, may I add, tapping in and out at will, sometimes falling asleep in the chamber. But when the public make a decision they don't like, they're all against it, and they will have no problems in overturning that. I don't see how they go home at night and look themselves in the mirror and actually justify that to themselves. Because again, it comes down to in no other walk of life would that system and that kind of attitude work, apart from here. Now, and that could be why we're about to see the world get rid of them, maybe.
Guys, if you're just joining us, and a lot of you are jumping on now, let us know. Jacob Rees-Mogg's asked publicly, will the government deliver on Brexit? Do you have faith? Do you share a dose of scepticism about what's going on? Let us know how you're feeling. If there's any other issues you want us to talk about, jump in on the comments, tweet at us, Facebook message, all the rest of it. Dive in and get involved. And of course, visit westminster.com. Now, the next story, what went on in Telford, the grooming gang. To me, it's very interesting actually when you look at the Telford grooming scandal. I mean, we pushed and pushed for the BBC and others to give it a lot of coverage, and then they sort of give it a bit of coverage in terms of the amount of girls that are supposedly, and boys, I suppose, that have been abused that way, and then it just sort of disappears again. Yeah, and it shouldn't, because this is the level of abuse that went on is a national disgrace. And you've got Telford MP Lucy Allen, Patrick, yesterday. She's not, she's trying to highlight the shit again.
Yeah, I mean, just as an overview, guys, you may remember from a few months ago now in Telford, there was another child grooming scandal that broke. Roughly 1,000 girls, and I suppose some boys as well, been abused by essentially an Asian sex ring in the area. Now, this is not the first time, of course, that we've seen this up and down the country, Rotherham, Rochdale, to name but a couple. But now Lucy Allen has been pushing and pushing and pushing to actually hold the police to account and the local councils to account for the way that they've gone about handling this. And as she's rightly pointed out, she describes a shocking case here of a 13-year-old girl who was raped and abused by multiple men to the point where she fell pregnant at 13. The men were arrested, okay? The police did not join the dots and realise that this gang of men were connected. They said that basically their defence was that we didn't know she was 13. They asked the girl, did you or did you not tell them that you were over 16? She said, well, no. And so that's it. That's all they had to do to get let off. And they're all walking the streets now. And I do not believe that it's the only time these blokes have done that. And I do not believe with that kind of level of deterrent, which is basically nothing's going to happen to you, that they're going to stop doing it. She's calling for a change in the law that says that it shouldn't be this easy. Right, put it this way, a 13-year-old girl should not have to prove to police that she did not consent. A 13-year-old girl should not have to prove to police that she didn't say that she was under 16. It's not the way this country works, I'm afraid. That's not the law at all. And the police should do more to root out this kind of crime when we see it. Because really, this is an epidemic going on up and down the country. And it's absolutely disgraceful. It's sickening. And well done to Lucy Allen for really trying to hammer this point home. And what's shameful, sorry, Michael, I'll let you have a word edgeways in a minute, but what is shameful is that Lucy Allen was giving a speech on this in Parliament yesterday and not a single representative from the Home Office turned up. Not a single representative. If you want to seem like you're taking child grooming seriously in this country, you bloody well show up.
Guys, another group that have been doing very good work, the Quilliam group. Now, female genital mutilation, again, it's a subject that some people like to ignore and not talk about. We're not going to duck it. It's an incredibly important issue. To have girls growing up here, or girls even moving here, young women, subject to this brutal, disgusting, barbaric attack is a national shame. And Quilliam have brought out a report basically saying FGM is a national scandal. Yeah. And in the report, this is extraordinary to me, guys. In the report, they basically discuss how between 2016 and 2017, so this is 1 year period, there were 5,391 new cases of FGM were recorded in the UK. Yet Britain has failed to bring a single perpetrator of FGM to justice. This is crazy. The author Muna Adil also says we already have the data to indicate which communities and boroughs are high risk situations. There is no credible reason for us to be shying away from this issue. We've done this story before on westminster.com. Suggestions that doctors and various other people in authority, they duck it because they're politically correct. They're scared of being branded a racist. And I'm sorry, but this is so weak and pathetic that, as I say, over 5,000 new cases of FGM in 1 year, and we haven't had a single successful prosecution in this country.
Why is that?
Where are the people that spend their lives being offended because you don't use the right descriptive term, or all this garbage that really doesn't matter? Why are they not kicking up a fuss about young girls being brutalised and attacked in this way? This isn't half a dozen or a dozen or 100. This is over 5,000 new cases in 1 year in the UK and no successful prosecutions. Something is clearly very, very wrong here. And following on from although they're separate issues, it shows you how badly we are letting down people growing up in our country. When you've got systematic child abuse and grooming going on, you've got FGM going on, and only now are we really starting to see these issues highlighted. Only really now we started seeing people prosecuted in the grooming case, but still no one held to account. These people that carry this disgusting, barbaric attacks out, they need to be held accountable. They need to be put in prison. They need to be made an example of. They're animals.
I don't understand why there's such a lack of public outrage about this. Female genital mutilation is basically kidnapping, the most depraved sort of sexual abuse towards the child that you could possibly imagine, and often goes hand in hand with forced marriages, right, which involves rape. doesn't it? And so all in one neat little package of absolute terror, do you have kidnapping of a child, because they often take them abroad to do these things. You have the worst kind of mutilation to a child, and then you often end up seeing them married off and raped. Now how is that not a national scandal? Where are your feminists on this? Where is the outrage? Where is the child protection people? Nothing, no, because it's a difficult subject to talk about, because it seems to happen almost entirely within one cluster of communities. People aren't outraged by it. People aren't bold enough to come up and talk about it. I'm sorry, but you lose the argument for me when you talk about being a feminist about this or that, or you talk about, isn't it a shame about children suffering in this way, one way or the other. This is 5,500 girls are being kidnapped, mutilated, often married off to people they've never met before. It's absolutely abhorrent, abhorrent.
And that goes into the next story, Patrick, which is woman guilty of forcing daughter to marry man almost twice her age in Pakistan.
The other thing with this is also the first prosecution of its kind in this country.
Wow.
Sorry, Michael, go on. Start talking through it.
No, I mean, a woman's been found guilty of forcing her daughter to marry against her will in the first prosecution of its kind. The woman tricked her 18-year-old daughter into travelling to Pakistan with her, where she was married to a man 16 years older than her. I mean, it is to consider, guys, that this isn't, this is going on in our country. Girls are being systematically exploited and sexually abused by gangs.
Yeah.
You've got girls being subject to female genital mutilation, and you've got arranged marriages. I mean, this is going on now.
Yeah.
This is going on now, and this is affecting the lives of young people growing up in our country. It's a scandal, and it's sickening that more people are not being banged up for this.
That's it. The prosecution rate is absolutely abysmal with any of these. The very fact that for the first time in English legal history we have had somebody prosecuted for arranging a forced marriage to a daughter is a damning indictment of how long we've let this go on and the lack of action towards it. The fact that we have no prosecutions for female genital mutilation, despite the fact that there's been 5,000 cases of it, is a damning indictment of where we are in law enforcement. And the fact that you have got grooming gangs that are allowed to operate and systematically rape and impregnate 13-year-old vulnerable girls and be set free by the police. I mean, gosh, where are we as a country, really?
Guys, you can always rely on West Monster to talk about these issues, as difficult as they may be. We won't shy away, we won't duck any issue at all. So please do support us. Go to westmonster.com and support us, visit the site, and also always dive in and tell us what you think. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Facebook as well. Now, I just want to get to the new Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, because shortly before we came on, he gave a speech. I mean, obviously he's following Amber Rudd, who was just a complete and utter shambles.
Rudderless.
One of the things that always gets me is, you remember you've seen the absolute bloodbath that's been unfolding, and again we've seen more instances of it across the country in Birmingham.
Yeah.
More young lives lost in London, young people being stabbed to death. The new Home Secretary Sajid Javid actually saying to basically tackle violent crime, he's going to back the police and he supports stop and search. He said that to help you tackle violent crime, I'll be bringing forward new laws that make it harder than ever to buy guns, knives and acid. And as Home Secretary, I'll be looking at what powers you need to do your job more effectively. That means looking at stop and search. Some of you don't feel comfortable using it, and that's how it should be. That's not how it should be, sorry. I have confidence in your professional judgment. So let me be clear. I support stop and search. Now, when a politician gives a speech, you always want to see the delivery when it's a minister, when it's the government. But at the end of the day, he's standing full square behind the police. He's backing stop and search. He deserves the chance. He deserves the benefit of the doubt, because there is no doubt in my mind that the epidemic of violence that we're seeing sweeping our streets, and London in particular, but other cities as well, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
It's incredibly serious. And it needs a policy response. Simply saying, well, we're going to put as many resources in as we can, and blah, 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 that to me isn't enough. We need a fundamental rethink in this country of how we deal with crime. We need to have jails that are a deterrent and not a holiday camp. We need prison sentences that send very, very strong messages. And we need big stop and search in areas of high violence, so that you can send out the message, you can take the perpetrators off the street, and anyone, and I've said it many, many times, and I don't know why this hasn't been brought in, but anyone caught with any weapon should be looking at years inside. Yeah. No ifs, no buts, doesn't matter if it's the first time, second time, third time, they should be going away for years. If you did that in 6 months, I think you'd see a difference in terms of the number of instances taking place.
And case in point as to why we need this stop and search, the fact that without it, criminals just feel like they can get away with anything. And earlier today, I did a story with Westminster that basically showed that there was a couple of people, there's 18-year-olds, I think they were, who, in the space of 4 hours, carried out 9 knife-point robberies, stabbed people for the fun of it, because that's the police quote, is that they stabbed people just because they could, murdered a bloke for his watch and phone. And the reality is, they did all this because they thought they could get away with it, didn't they? Driving around on a moped across London, rampaging across their capital city, free, basically, as far as they were concerned, to carry out these brazen robberies, a lot of which in daylight, stabbing people because they just thought they'd get away with it. And of course, you know, when they eventually get chased by police on this moped, one of them whips his helmet off because he thinks, oh, they won't chase me. Now, luckily, because of the severity of what they did, the police did carry on and they brought them to justice. But, I mean, there's no... The very fact that you've got people in this country that consider behaving this way and then go and do it shows where we are in terms of police enforcement. And the reality is, you know, if you don't have stop and search and you don't have that fear of being caught with a knife and fear of actually being caught when you carry out these crimes, then people are going to keep doing it, aren't they?
Well, the quote that came from the police on this particular case was absolutely appalling. The quote was, the teenagers believed they had the right to threaten and rob wherever they wanted, often stabbing their victims for no reason at all, but to prove they could.
Yeah.
And I think the country's got to start waking up now into how hardened some of these criminals are. You know, these are people, as the police have said, that stab people on a whim, not because they, you know, serving absolutely not even because they need to hurt them. They've already nicked the stuff off of them. They're just doing it because they're nutters.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? You have to use force. You have to get these people and you have to make an example out of them and you have to make them fear the police and you have to make them fear prison. You have to make them fear the consequences of their actions. And I put it to you, when you've got the police saying that these teenagers are stabbing people for the sake of it because they can.
Absolutely.
You're in a very weak, soft spot as a society.
Absolutely, and I think I'd make examples of them. I'd lock them up for life and I'd put their faces on billboards around the capital with their big mugshots on it, just saying never seeing the light of day again, and I'd list the crimes that they've done. Because actually then other people in a similar position to them and might have similar thoughts to them, of which there are now numerous across the capital, might really think twice before they did it. It's time we made an example of these people, I think, because otherwise it's going to keep happening, isn't it? But guys, we have had a lot of your comments coming through. On Stop and Search, Diane James has been in touch. The trouble is their excuses that they think it's against their human rights. Shani Bignell's just saying, get Khan out. I think that's a relatively popular view on our Westminster live streams here, and a lot of comments about Khan. And John Stanwell just saying, please do a live show on the BBC licence fee. Well, I think we always drop that in every now and again, but no, we've got no plans to do that at the minute.
Couple of final stories just on what's gone on in Europe, guys. We'll leave you with a smile on your faces, as always. But if you are enjoying what we're doing here, please do give us a retweet. Please do give us a like and visit westminster.com/support. A lot of you supporting us already. If you value Westminster, if you read our stories, if you like our shows, we do need your support. So please do go over to westminster.com/support and chip in and help us. Thank you very much. Now, turning to France, I mean, you know, the EU saviour, Emmanuel Macron's obviously over there. I mean, look what is going on over there. It's absolutely incredible. Migrant camps now. We've already heard about, I think it was one half marathon being cancelled because of these migrant camps. They're now spiralling out of control completely. Estimates of thousands of people now just lying in the streets. Socialist mayor accusing Macron's government of giving up on the city of Paris. Chaos now sums up the capital's camps. Only a simultaneous operation to take care of all of the people. It was a letter written by the Prime Minister. And it just shows you, I think, this is what happens when you have a migrant crisis and you have a European Union that's just so weak and so unwilling to confront issues head on. You know, they've lost all control. The fact is, when you've got migrant camps being set up in Paris and you're having to cancel events because you can't deal with it, you've lost control. The authorities have lost control. They've let in too many people. They have no idea who they are. They've got nowhere for them. And I'm afraid this is, in many ways, the European Union legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, governments are elected to deal with tough topics, to deal with tough issues, not to shirk things because they're a bit sensitive, not to shirk things because it's not a great photo opportunity, or because it's not the kind of lovely, fluffy liberal politics that gets you loads and loads of votes. No, they're elected to deal with problems like this. And when you have the complete lack of responsibility or the shifting of responsibility, then problems only get bigger and bigger, you know. And I mean, this situation doesn't work for anyone. I'm absolutely certain that none of the migrants, 3,000 migrants living in makeshift camps in Paris, are happy to be there. Of course not. The people of Paris certainly aren't overjoyed at the situation. It is now impacting on their quality of life. You know, and really, this is just the epitomises the EU's approach to the migrant crisis, which is basically, we've caused it, and now we're doing nothing about it. Which is a bit worrying for people, I think, really.
Now, Italy, we're going to finish on Italy. I mean, this is a story that I think you guys will be very interested in. I mean, they are scaring the bejesus out of the guys in Brussels, let me tell you, because this five-star Lega coalition is anti-establishment, is anti-mass migration, is very Eurosceptic, and indeed, the person that's Matteo Salvini, he's the Lega leader's choice to be the next economy minister, is a very, very strong Eurosceptic, Paolo Savona, who's previously said if Italy has not already done so, it's time to have a plan B ready at the end of the Euro exit from the same. He's also referred to the single currency as a German prison. So this isn't a guy that ducks away from anything. He's also quoted as been saying, if you pretend that the problem does not exist, the European loop is tightening around the neck of Italy. So very, very interesting. Although they've removed the mechanism that was originally planned to leave the euro completely, that's not in the agreement they've done there. It shows you again, another election, another country, the Eurosceptics, anti-mass migration forces are the ones that are winning and are the ones now in that country that are going to be in power.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I mean, also as well, you know, there's the fact that realistically now in Italy, more and more it's talking about genuinely leaving the euro. And that could be a final death knell for the European Union. But what I don't understand why this should come as a shock to anyone in Brussels. If you basically have a country that is at the forefront of the migrant crisis, i.e. Italy, you don't give them any support whatsoever. You know, you allow vast swathes of that country to become not overrun, because it makes it sound bad, but you know, to be hung out to dry when dealing with the migrant crisis. And their economy is allowed to go into the doldrums as well. What do you expect? The reality is that the situation becomes a case where the government starts standing up and go, maybe we can handle this better on our own. Maybe we can deal with this better on our own. We don't need decisions made for us in Brussels, etc., etc. So it should be a big shock to the Europhile elite that Italy now is trying to go its own way. Could we not maybe see Greece go next as well, and all these other little countries? And what about you know, the kind of Balkan states as well? You know, I think really we're seeing right across Europe, as we know now, that people are basically rebelling against the EU because they just feel they can do it better themselves.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us as ever. For everything that's going on in terms of Brexit and in Europe and right across the world, make sure you visit westmonster.com, sign up to our red alert email on there, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and visit westmonster.com to stay up to date. We will see you soon. Keep your eyes out for the next Uncensored. We'll catch you soon.
Take care, guys.